Hey you guys, good to see you here on the channel. I'm Ryan. If you're new to the channel, this is Grassroots Gardening, where we discuss all things gardening and landscaping. And today I've got a real special video. You see right there, we've got some huge Roma tomatoes. And believe it or not, but tomatoes need to be pruned every once in a while to give you the biggest, juiciest tomatoes. So that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do in today's video right now. Look at the size of these tomatoes, y'all. So I just went to the beach for just a few days and we got a bunch of rain. Let me zoom y'all out because these things are huge and you can hear the parrots squawking in the background. So if you hear that, I don't have someone tied up around there. That's just one of the macaws going crazy. But anyway, look at the size of these Roma tomatoes. And we've even got some fruit way down here on the interior. But as I've said in videos previously, think of this tomato as a mother, and a mother can only support so many children. So with these vines going everywhere, she's going to have a lot of children, and she can't support them all and have them turn into big, beautiful tomatoes. So we're going to prune it up a little bit. We've got a lot of what we call suckers, and here's a good example right here, you guys, of what a sucker is. So this is the sucker. Anywhere where you've got a stem coming from the main trunk, in between the leaf and the main trunk, that is a sucker. Now, we don't want to get rid of all of our vines because there are several good leaders in there, but we need to kind of trace it back, clean it up a little bit. We just got way too much happening, way too many limbs on this plant for her to support all this growth. That too, down here on the bottom of the plant, see all this dead stuff? It's so shady down in there, as you can imagine. So that's going to be a recipe for fungus and disease. So we want to get that cleaned up too. Let's get our Felcos out right now. Got them right here in my pocket. And let's prune this thing up a little bit. Alright, so what I think we need to do, y'all, is come in here first. And I see a sucker that started way down at the bottom. And this thing goes all the way up. Let me see if I can pull it out right here. It's kind of stuck in our cage. I think it's going to have to come out the bottom. But it goes all the way up through the center of the plant, and it did, or does rather, until I cut it, have some fruiting flowers on it. And don't freak out. Still going to have plenty of flowers and growth to come. But look at that whole shoot we just had to take out of there. It's just way too cluttered up in here. Sunlight can't penetrate down through the canopy, and again, she just can't support all of these fruiting vines. So I'm really going to focus too on cutting some of these lower leaves off the ground floor area, if you will, because I don't want any fungus or bacterial diseases coming and hurting our tomato plant. But see, here's another example of a really long sucker. Now that we can kind of get in here and see what we're doing, let me get you guys zoomed in real quick. See that right there? That's a sucker, because there was a leaf that I just cut off, and there's our main trunk. So we want to get rid of that guy right there. So we'll simply just come right in here with our Felcos and give him a cut. Now look how far up. I'll try to, let me zoom you back out. Sorry about the camera work. I'm trying to do three things at once. But look at how far up this vine went. And it's going to be fine. The plant is actually going to appreciate us doing this because she's going to have less to support and can put more energy into the few tomatoes that she has on her versus a bunch of little puny tomatoes. So it's okay to take out big suckers just like that. And again, any of these big leaf sets like this, we can go ahead and get rid of those too. Matter of fact, I think this guy right here, he definitely is a whole nother sucker that we want to remove off of our Roma tomato plant. All these little leaves down here at the bottom, they can't get any sunlight anyway. So they're not doing the plant any good, and they are just a good habitat for disease. So I'm just kind of, any of these suckers I see down here at the bottom, this one's so large. I waited a little too long to do this, but man, we were only going a couple days to the beach, and we've got all that rain while we were gone. These things just went nuts. They're growing in this organic soil. If you guys remember when we put all of the organic compost and land and sea, some of our own compost in here, super rich soil, they got that rain and they just took off. Once we get a lot of these leaves out of the way, I can get y'all in here and better show you what we're attempting to do with getting rid of these suckers. I'm just going to try to prune it up a little bit so we can get the camera in here and see what's going on, and I think that's pretty good. Let me show you guys another few examples. Let me zoom you out a little bit. So here's a good example of a sucker. See how puny and spindly that little vine is? So he's not going to amount to anything, and he's just robbing power from the plant. So we want to get rid of that guy. A lot of times too, you can just come in here and simply break those suckers right off. So now that we're getting her opened up a little bit more, we've kind of got to make a decision of when we're going to, stop pruning, how many runners we actually want to leave. I think 3 or 4 would be good on this plant. Right now we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main leaders. And so we can kind of come up here to the top and see which ones are doing the best, which have the thicker stems, and which ones we want to leave. So I think they all look pretty good. And this is where it gets kind of difficult. Is okay, what do I want to prune next? And so what I think I'm going to do is get rid of this guy in the center. That'll be him right here. Reason being, that's going to allow more light down through the canopy, down to the lower portions of the plant. And as we follow it all the way back down, we see that he, in fact, is a sucker as well. So I'm going to grab my clippers real quick, and we're just going to clip him right like that. Now, let's go back up to the top, and you guys will be able to see what I mean when we open up a nice big hole in the middle of the plant. Now, look at all that sunlight that can penetrate down and feed those lower leaves and just make the plant healthier in general. This is also going to help airflow come through the plant, which will help with bugs and just the general overall health of the tomato. All right, let's come in here. Let's get rid of this little lower leaf right there. Got another little lower leaf over here, down in the very center. And we can get rid of this little bit right here. And then, let's see, it's so hard to tell where all this stuff's coming from. We'll get rid of that guy. And this one we're just gonna break off, I think. You gotta be careful with breaking them off, because sometimes you'll wind up stripping bark off of your tomato plant and opening up room for disease and pests. So you gotta be kind of careful with doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and snip that guy. Let's see, we've already cut him. We just need to get him out of there. And that's looking a lot better already. Now see how much better that's looking, y'all? Look at all the area that we can see down here. We can pick our weeds, and we can see we've actually got, I didn't even know this fruit was down here because you couldn't see anything. But it's nice and opened up now. Look at how much light is actually going to penetrate down through there. Now we're going to have to come in here pretty soon and stake some more too, because we just got this little wire cage right here. This thing is going to continue on growing and growing and growing. So we need to get some bamboo stakes in here or something to fasten it to. But while we're doing this video, I want to show you guys something else that's very important too. You see on this cluster, we've just got 1, 2, 3 tomatoes. And these guys right here, I don't think are going to make anything. I don't think they got pollinated well enough. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of them. That way the tomato plant can focus all of its energy right there on that tomato. I like to leave 3 to 4 tomatoes per cluster on a variety like this. Sometimes you'll get 6 or more, and that's just too many for one cluster. Again, we want her to be able to focus all of her energy and pumping all that growth making us some big, nice, beautiful tomatoes. So we want to just kind of cull and limit the amount that we have. Now here's a good example right here. So look at this fruit right here. We've got one, and these didn't make it. If it doesn't get pollinated successfully, then it'll usually just go ahead and abort that fruit. So there are a lot of flowers on there. So if all of them were successful, you could just come in and cull and just pinch them off until you get 3 to 4 tomatoes per cluster. And all that energy will go into just those 3 or 4. Now you're going to have more than 3 or 4 on a plant, obviously. I mean, right now we've probably got, I don't know, 16 developing fruit on one tomato, and that's fine. But when you come over here to this Roma that we haven't pruned yet, there are flowers up in there, tomatoes up in there. It's just way too much for one plant to support. And so just as soon as these tomatoes ripen, we're going to go ahead and harvest them off so that the mother plant can then start putting her focus on the ones that are still attached and needing that energy. And what we're going to do now that we're back off vacation and we don't have to leave them alone for a little while, we're going to come in and more regularly just to remove these suckers. So we've got one there. Here's another good example right here. We're just going to go ahead and take our finger and pinch those off. That way we can keep our 4 main vines going and not let it get all cluttered up again and bushed out. This is going to really be a game changer for this plant. It's going to be so much more healthy, and we'll have big, beautiful Roma tomatoes. Well, there you have it, guys. Just a little tip and trick on how to get more beautiful tomatoes. I guess I should say too, the only tomato plant that I don't prune is going to be a cherry tomato plant. Because the cherries are so small anyway, we're just going to let them just kind of go. You would be there forever if you tried to cull and prune a cherry tomato plant. But any of these indeterminate varieties, such as Roma, any others, this is really beneficial to the plant, and you'll get huge, delicious tomatoes, and we're going to have some here just in about another week. Those should be ready. They'll be great in a salad. Appreciate you guys watching. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. See you on the next video, guys.